Hello, folks, and welcome. Welcome, Andrea, and super interested to hear about your experiences building the Forma the Forma PM, the product manager's AI assistant. The floor is yours. You're welcome.
Awesome, thank you. Cool. So before we get started, just a little bit about me first. So I'm Andrea. I'm head of product marketing at Turtle. I'm also co-author of the book, The Product Momentum Gap. I'm the creator of Forma PM, which is what we're here to talk about. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I have a lot of opinions about things. So maybe you'll get entertained by some of those. So let's kind of talk about Forma and why I built it. I like to think about, three very precise reasons about why I kicked off this idea of building Forma PM. The first is communication. I find that great ideas usually fail because they're not communicated clearly, and clear thinking leads to that clear communication. So when you can articulate your product's value proposition, the problems it solves, and the impact it creates, you can very easily earn stakeholder trust and user adoption. The second is alignment. I think that in order to have alignment, you have to have a great story. So whether you're pitching to executives, aligning cross-functional teams, or launching to market, you need to be able to craft a narrative that resonates and drives that action. And a lot of the times what I've seen is that that alignment is lost a little bit between strategy and execution. So what Forma does is it makes sure that you have that communication and that alignment across the life cycle of the product development stages. And the third is I find that AI is inherently flawed, or the way we tend to think about how we can apply AI is flawed. And we tend to use AI as a way to generate text. So there's all these tools out there that are like, generate text, generate this, generate that. But the really, really good ones really focus on workflows, structure. And what I want to add to that is influence. So giving product builders the ability to not just apply structure to what they do, but also then empower themselves to be able to influence conversations. And I see this pattern a lot, right? So really great teams, smart ideas, but usually there's no cohesive or shared story between those ideas and between those teams. So what I want to solve for is clarity, not just generate some text. So Forma PM helps product teams tell better product stories, right? That's the solution that I'm building here and the problem that I'm trying to solve. So what you start with is a structured guided conversation. And you can see the GIF here as an example of you talk with this product coach, and as you're talking, the product coach actually fills out this template in the background and focuses on creating that alignment for you. So you get to go through this structured thinking step by step. And at the end, you have an actual tangible document that you can use to then influence those decisions, influence your team members, your board, your executives, and just make sure that, like I said, that communication, that alignment, that storytelling is very clear throughout. So what makes Forma different? And I get asked this a lot. Forma, first of all, is not an AI writer. It's a thinking partner. And it's based on real product experience and designed to bring structure, alignment, and clarity to the reality that is product work, which is it's political, it's messy, it can be confusing. There's a lot of bias that we hold, and we need to make sure that that clarity, that alignment, that communication is very, very clear across, right? But most importantly, I was very clear from the beginning that what I don't want Forma to ever be or to ever do is to do anyone's work for them. What I wanted to do is to help you do that work better. So Forma is not going to replace product thinking, or it's not going to replace judgment, empathy, all those skills that are really important as a product manager. But it helps give you structure so that you can explain what you know more clearly. So this is the stack that I'm using. I built everything myself using Lovable and Supabase. So Lovable it codes a lot of the front end, and Supabase for the back end. GitHub as well for some of my own code. I'm using Resend for emails. Really, really handy tool, and they have an amazing free tier, which I'm sure if I ever scale, I'm definitely going to be a paid customer. So free resend sponsorship right here. Also using ChatGPT for like some additional vibe coding stuff. And not listed here is Figma. So I do use Figma to kind of start thinking through some of that UI first before I input anything. And what's really exciting is that just 3 weeks after launch, I've already got 1,000 ARR, $1,000 ARR. So it doesn't seem like much, but you know, for a little product that I'm building by myself, it feels really exciting to me for sure. Oh, this got stuck. Hold on. There we go. All of that said, while it sounds super fun and like it might hopefully be really successful one day, it's not all fun and games when it comes to vibe coding. So I do want to share some lessons that I've learned throughout this journey. The first is building fast doesn't mean skipping the hard parts. And this is true whether you're vibe coding or not vibe coding. But there's some really interesting stopgaps that I had around like making sure that I had the right rate limits, RLS policies, and SOC 2 compliance, like all this stuff that's really, really important, but it's also really hard to do. The second is somewhat related to the first, which is security comes first. Luckily, Supabase does provide a baseline for that security, but some of the things that I just mentioned, like RLS policies, SOC 2, GDPR, compliance, like all that stuff is down to you. So you do need to be able to understand how encryption works, why it matters, how to apply it, when to apply it, to what to apply it. So just something to keep in mind as you're building your product. The third is test everything. And this sounds like a really duh point, but I went against my own advice and I jumped on my own hype train and I ended up sending an email without even testing it and it looked absolutely horrible. I had to send a follow-up email apologizing to everybody. And as a marketer, I should have known better. I should have tested my own email, but I was on my own hype train and I just did it, pushed it, didn't test it. Um, and it sounds really harmless, like, oh, it was just an email. But again, it's about, you know, creating that transparency, creating that relationship with your potential customers, people that are testing your product. So test everything, even something as what could seem as insignificant as an email, but please don't make the same mistake I did. The next is SSO is a nightmare. I don't even know where to begin with SSO. So this goes back to the testing everything and security, all these points tied together. But SSO is one of those things that's expected in any product that you build. Of course, it would have Google SSO. You know, people almost expected, as I said, but it's such a nightmare to set up because there's testing environments and production environments. And if something breaks, what AI tends to do is it'll patch one part and not patch the other. And so if you're considering or know that you have to add SSO to your product, know that it's probably, at least for me, one of the most difficult parts that I had to deal with when putting this together. The next is transparency. It builds more trust than hype. So for me, it was really important to be able to build in public. And as part of that, you know, the transparency of how security policies work, how the AI works, the fact that the AI doesn't train based on your data, like that to me was really, really important. And it should be for anyone building with AI because it's part of ethics, right? What you're building, how you're building it, who you're building it for. Always keep that in consideration. The next is AI will break things. Do not ever trust it. Going back to my SSO point, as I was putting together SSO in the app, it just kept breaking and it kept breaking and it kept breaking until I finally asked the magic question, which I absolutely recommend everybody to ask, which is, what is the actual root of this problem? Always ask, what problem am I trying to solve? Not just fix this part of the problem, because what it does is it's just going to put a patch on it and it's not going to think through the logic of how everything else is affected. So I finally asked the question of, why does this keep breaking? We fix it so many times. And it gave me a very honest answer, which is, well, we've just been patching things and it's holding together with like, you know, a piece of string. So I had to refactor the entire SSO module, and now it's finally stable. But ask the right questions and don't just flat out trust that it's doing the right thing. The next is testing versus production modes. They matter. Don't forget to switch between them, especially when it comes to things like Stripe and Google Console and anything that's related to your database. That was a very, very hard lesson for me. I forgot to do the switch. Again, seems really silly, but because I wasn't paying attention, and again, I was on my own hype train, I forgot to hit that switch, and I ran into some issues. But again, really easy to fix once you have it, but hopefully you won't have to fix it. And the next is have release notes. And that's part of that transparency building. It's a great way of building relationships, keeping people engaged. And it gives you a reason to email people and be like, hey, this is what's new, right? Here are our release notes. Here's what we've done. And creates that ongoing engagement and keeps people logging back in. So always important to have. So what's next for Forma? I am building a few more tools. One of them is a roadmap narrative builder. So a big problem that I see is that product managers absolutely know how to build a roadmap, but they don't always know how to position a roadmap, especially for different audiences. So how you tell the story, who you tell that story to is really important. And then last thing, or the next thing that I want to continue to build on, is to have this central intelligence system for how you're telling those narratives, how you're telling those stories. So everything in Forma connects to each other. So when you create your position and your pitch, that will feed into the product coach. What you do in the product coach will inform feature comms. That's a go-to-market commercial facing document. That will then inform the launch brief, which will inform the executive summary, hopefully you're starting to get the point where everything connects to each other so that you don't have to constantly repeat yourself. But the next time you have to work on a project, you have the context already built in. You don't have to, again, go through the whole shebang of having to fill out everything. So I really do want to make this as easy as possible and have that user experience be really great for anyone that's using it. And I do want to share this quote. So I had my CEO actually at Turtle try it. And he said, I can't imagine not using this every day. It was so easy. And that to me felt really good because he's now able to structure his own thinking and be able to share with the board some of the ideas that he has and how we're moving forward and how to pitch things better. And throughout this journey, what I learned is that in order to ship something of value, you don't necessarily need a humongous team if what you want to do is test that idea. What you do need is a real problem to solve, an understanding of your ICP, of who you're solving this problem for. You need structure and you need storytelling. And those are the things and the problems that Forma solves for. And I do want to say this with a caveat. Again, vibe coding has been great, but if I ever wanted to scale this someday to, let's say, 50,000 ARR, 100,000 ARR, that's the dream, right? I don't know that vibe coding would be able to get me there. I think vibe coding is fantastic for like early days, beta testing. Let's see if I can turn this into a business someday. But I don't think the entire business could just be vibe coding. But all very interesting. I love what I'm doing. It's gotten really positive response so far. And I do hope that, maybe in the future, there's a real business worth investing in. And that is all. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, Andrea, for sharing the challenges and the insights. I wonder, talking about developing further, what is your ultimate goal? Would you like to automate the product manager's role completely, or is it about augmenting it?
It's definitely about augmenting it. Like I said, my outcome here or my goal is never to replace product people. I think they're incredibly valuable. I think we bring a level of empathy and judgment and this ability to turn ambiguity into action that an AI is never going to be able to do. Absolutely. That is 100% something that I want everybody to take away is you are 100% valuable in ways that you probably don't even know. What I want it to do really is to empower you to tell a better story so that you can get everybody else on board and so that you can move faster. That's the whole point of it, is giving you that empowerment, giving you that influence, that tends to be a little bit more difficult to do when you're constantly changing, the things that you're doing, you're context switching. And I find this really tricky myself sometimes, is because I know the problem really well. I have a lot of that context in my head and I just expect somebody else to have it. But you have to get people through that narrative first for them to really understand and get the buy-in. And so that's the problem that I'm trying to solve for, is how to get everybody aligned as much as possible and giving the product manager, the product marketer, the founder that ramp to accelerate that.
And how would you suggest to start with Forma? Like, of course, we want to incorporate AI in our work to increase our performance, improve our quality, and however, we have already existing processes in place in every organization. So, what would be the steps for bringing Forma into the daily work of a product manager?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. What I would say is some people have asked me what the difference is between this and a PRD, and this is absolutely not a PRD. This is a storytelling tool. So a PRD is very, very technical, but if you give your VP of marketing a PRD, they're going to roll their eyes and be like, what is this? This is the flip side to the PRD, right? So if you're thinking about where this fits in the storytelling side where you want to get other people on board. And so instead of handing somebody a PRD, you go, here's my business case. Here's the problem I'm trying to solve, why I'm solving it, who I'm solving it for, what are the risks, what do we know now, what have we learned? And the great thing about the coach is that first it has the first 10 questions that you answer to build your business case. You then go off and do discovery, come back, feed it that discovery, and it'll help you structure how to tell the story of what you've learned, right? And then you go off and you do your prototypes, and again, you come back and you feed it all that information. It's going to keep working with you so that when you have to go through that life cycle of product development, you're able to tell those different stories to your different stakeholders. Because what you tell your CEO or your CPO or your CFO or the board or your VP of marketing is going to be slightly different, but it all has to come from the same story, right? It needs to be aligned. And so when it comes to where it fits within your workflow, it's right there. So it's knowing how to bring other people on board. So it's not the technical side, it's the relationship building side.
Great. And how would it be different from prompting, let's say, ChatGPT, setting the audience, the right audience, saying that you're very experienced that type of a role, like help me to craft this particular communication?
So I get this question a lot. The first is AI is a great tool, but you have to know how to prompt it, how to set contextual guidelines, and what that output should look like. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. I have actually given the empty templates to people before and said, hey, can you fill this out? And what they will give me is a solution assumption, not a business case, not a storytelling narrative, not really what problem they're trying to solve. Is they go straight to the solution assumption of this is the feature that I'm building and why. Like, well, that's not what I asked for. I don't care about the feature. I care about the problem that you're solving. Tell me the problem. Tell me why the user is having this problem. How do they feel when they have this problem? What behaviors are we looking to change? And people don't generally think about those things. And the reason all those things are important is because those things are not only going to get you buy-in with your stakeholders internally, but they're going to help frame positioning and messaging to marketing. And then that extends to sales and marketing and CS. And so there's this domino effect that happens. And if you just go to ChatGPT today and go, hey, I need you to build me a business case about this feature, it's going to spit out stuff that's not valuable. Even if you tell it, this is my ICP, this is that, build me a business case, that business case is not going to be complete because it doesn't have the guidelines that are super, super important and that are part of these templates. The second is it's literally going to do what you asked it to do, but it's not going to ask you questions in return. And what I mean by that is if you go to Forma today and say, I want to build reports, right? That's what I need to communicate. I need to get everybody on board around building reports. What it's going to say is, well, that's really great, but a report is an output. What is the problem? Well, the problem is that our users need reports, and they need to, be able to report to their own VPs. Again, that's not a problem. What is the actual problem? Let's think through the problem a little bit deeper. And so it's going to push you and push you and push you until you are able to articulate the problem properly. And that's not something ChatGPT knows to do, because ChatGPT is going to have a one-to-one relationship with what you're telling it and what the output is. But Forma has been structured and has those guardrails to be able to coach you through it properly.
And would you say that Form is a better aid for like more junior PMs, or also for are you using Forma yourself? Are you getting value out of the product for yourself?
I actually am. So this whole thing actually started as a set of GPTs that I created for myself and for my team. And I then released those GPTs externally. I said, hey, everybody, what do you guys think about this GPT? And everyone's like, oh, this is actually really helpful. But part of the problem was while you could have that conversation at that coaching, it wouldn't have an output to it. So it's like, great, you have the coaching, but you still need to now build that Notion template, or you need to build that PDF to share it. And so that's the other part that makes Forma different, is as you're chatting, it's filling out all these things for you so that you have something that's ready to go, right? You don't have to go through that copy pasting or trying to figure out what is what. So it saves you a lot of time. I use it a lot myself, and it checks me on a lot of things because, again, sometimes we're thinking a million miles an hour that we need to stop for a minute, think about the problem that we're solving, think about how we're going to articulate it best. And that's what it does. It just gives you like those 2 minutes to think about it more clearly. And again, when I gave it to my CEO, it took him 15 minutes. That was it. That's all it takes. But those 15 minutes to stop and pause and really think about things can make a huge difference.
How do you receive feedback? Do you receive feedback on improving Forma from your colleagues? Do you receive it from the users, external users? Is there a backlog of things that you're going to improve next?
Yeah, definitely. I have received a ton of really valuable feedback. I've already got paying customers and they're giving me feedback all the time. And so, yeah, it's been really exciting to kind of watch it develop. But the exciting thing about vibe coding is that I can do those things quite quickly. However, like I said, I do use Forma for Forma. So for some of those ideas, I'm like, hey, I'm building Forma. People have given me this feedback and I think this might be the solution. Can you help me, structure some of these things? And as I'm doing that, it's also helping me with the positioning and the messaging, and how to pitch it and what the value exchange is. And even though I know some of those things in the back of my mind, like I said, it's really good to stop for a minute and get that coaching myself. And then almost self-check myself, right? And be like, is what I'm thinking really the best way of doing it? And this is either going to tell me yes or no. And then I can go back to my user and be like, hey, okay, you gave me this feedback. This is what I'm, kind of thinking about. What do you think about that? And then they'll either say yes or no. But again, the great thing about vibe coding is that you can move quickly, yes, but it doesn't remove that thinking, that problem solving that has to happen. And again, that's the problem that Forma solves, is making sure that you're taking the time to think about those things.
And what would be the next things to develop Forma further? Like what other capabilities are you planning on building?
So like I said, the roadmap narrative builder is an interesting one. I'm still thinking through how to best to solve that problem. I know the problem I'm trying to solve and who I'm solving it for, but it's just about what that solution might look like, that not struggling with, but we just want to make sure that I do it right. So I'm working with a couple of people on that, to make sure that, you know, I do my user service. Also thinking about an ICP builder, because that's just going to feed into everything. So making sure that you understand your ICP, who you're building things for, because that tends to be the one thing that I find a lot of product people tend to miss out on, is really think about, who are we actually solving this problem for, right? Who are our personas? Who's our ICP? Is this for the buyer? Is this for the user? Are they different? Are they not different? So that's really important. And like I said, just continuing to kind of develop that central intelligence system. Um, One thing that can be really difficult with something like ChatGPT is there are limits to how long the conversation can go for. And then if you have to start over, you're losing a lot of that context, right? So what Forma does is it keeps that context in one place, so that you're building that intelligent system and it just expands and expands and expands, but it's not going anywhere. It's there, it's for you, and you can continue building on it.
And would it be possible for a team of product managers to collaborate using Forma and share this intelligence about the product or the like a larger feature of the product?
Yes and no. So I don't have team capabilities yet, mostly because I haven't had an entire team come up to me yet and go, hey, we would like to work on these things all together at once. I don't know if that's a problem people have. Um, but if you do, let me know. The way that I've approached it for now is, if you're an IC, if you're a head of product and you have your different team members that are working on different products, right? And they need to develop some of that thinking and need a coach, they can go and use it themselves and they would have their own repository for the things that they're working on. But I don't see it being completely out of, sight or scope someday to have a team of product people, like a product team working together and sharing that intelligence across products. It absolutely makes sense. But because it's early days, I like to see, how that could potentially develop in the future for sure.
Got it, got it. And do you consider some integrations with any knowledge base, with Confluence or other tools?
Yeah. What I will say is that it's very easy to export. So there's a copy paste and a markdown option, as well as a PDF option. So exporting is quite easy. Um, I won't say too much, but there have been tools that have already approached me and said, hey, I think this is really valuable. Can we talk about potentially integrating in the future? Um, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to say too much. But yeah, really, really exciting to see some businesses being like, I've been thinking about this. Can we talk about an integration in the near future? So coming soon, hopefully.
Well, that's definitely a very exciting journey. And I want to ask you, what was the most, I don't know, the most valuable or the feedback that stands out most that you have received from your users?
Feedback that stands out the most. I think the person that tried it and said, let's integrate, because that person is the CEO of a company, and they said, this is worth it. Like, this is absolutely worth it. And they bought an annual package outright. They're just like, I'll pay you the money, bought an annual package. And they're like, I not only do I want to use it, but I want to integrate it with my product. And they saw the value right away. And so that was definitely really exciting.
Well, that's definitely the best feedback.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I went. I remember just seeing the annual subscription coming through, and I'm like, oh my God, you went annual? What? And they were like, yeah, of course I went annual. Like, I didn't even have to think about it. And I was like, wow, that is mind-blowing, right? Great validation, great feedback. And yeah, it just kind of let me know that there was good potential here.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on such a successful launch and all the and this exciting journey. And I would suggest maybe we can stop the recording and have a small discussion of the record to wrap up.
Yeah, sure.